Hello and welcome. Today I want to take you through a property management system which is built on Zoho Creator. So this property management system, since it is in Zoho Create, since it is built on Zoho Creator, it has the ability to work seamlessly with any other Zoho tool. That is, you can integrate it with Zoho Books, you can integrate it with Zoho Inventory, Zoho CRM, whatever system you want to integrate it with, very seamlessly. So as you can see on the home dashboard, it shows you a summary of what's happening with your properties. That is, it's showing you the occupied units, the vacant units from the whole system, the total rent paid this year, the total expenses this year, and the complaint payments. So it shows you the recent payments that have been made, the complaints that are currently pending, those that are completed, and all that other information. And shows you your current tenants, your tenants with outdated agreements. It shows you your recent complaints and on what stage they are. So you can click here and you go to view more complaints, and you can click here to go and view more tenants. All these other view more, they can help you view more complaints, more payments, and things like that. So in the setup here, this first go to the setup, you can see you have preferences you have to set up before you can start using the application. So when you click on preferences, you can see general preferences. You can set up your time zone, your time format, your date format, your currency format. So these preferences are those preferences that are going to be normally used in this whole system. So you can choose any you want. You can choose here, and you can choose what you want. You can choose to. So you can see also some payment configurations here. So these are payment defaults that you want to appear for the units that you have and the properties. So you can see the base rent amount you want it to be at 1.5 million. The security deposit you can put on that. So by default, when you create a unit, or when a unit is occupied and you're creating an agreement, that all those like this default will appear as the default payments. So we have a space also to add our email templates that we shall be using to send out emails. For example, there is a tenant vacating. For example, there is a work order going like being done by the engineer. For example, we have kind of template you want to send to your clients or to your tenants or within your admins to make sure that your business is running properly. Then we also have agreement templates. These are templates that are set. You can set them up according to what you want, according to what you normally see on your agreements. So you can set up either rent agreements or all these agreements. So you can come here and add a template and go ahead and set that up. Then for configuration purposes, you also set up these IDs. These are the IDs that are going to appear. Now, for example, this bill number is going to your bill number IDs are going to start with bill number, and also your work orders are going to be like this, and your agreement IDs. Then you can also set up the locations that your units or properties belong. Then the services, these are the services that are offered by the different vendors you set up in the system. So you can set up all the different services that you think the vendors that you have in the system will be able to do on your properties. So you can also add another service here, and you can also set up the details of your company here. So that is for the setup. After setting up the preferences, you can see you can add different users in the system. You can add admins, owners, managers, and tenants. All these you can add so that they can have access to this system. Then we have your vendors. You can add them here for you to keep track of what they are doing on your properties, and for you to know what vendor is attached to what to what property. So that is for the vendor. My internet is backing up. So you can see this when you click on the vendors in the setup, you can see it will bring you to a list of vendors. You can add any vendor here. And when you add a vendor, like when you're adding the details, you can add the organization they're associated to, their phone number, and the maintenance services that they offer and the properties they have to work on. So you setting up the properties they have to work on here is very important, because when you go to assign vendors, for example, there is a complaint that has been made by a tenant. This vendor will only appear on these three properties, so they will not appear on any other property. So you can add your vendors there. Then you can add, for accounting purposes, you can add all banks. So you can have banks set up in your system. You can have also bank accounts set up in your system. So I was having an internet issue there. So you can set up all your banks in your system, and you can also set up your bank accounts in your system. So it will just help you to keep track of what money was paid where and things like that. So you can set up all your payment modes so that you can keep track of what means of payment your tenants are paying through. So you can also set up your email templates. We covered this already. So those are the preferences and the setup. So after doing that setup, you will come and start using the application. Go back to the dashboard. We already saw the dashboard. Then you can come here under your properties. So under your properties, you can add a property here. You can add the details and what. Then under the property, you can see the different details about that property. You can see the units that are under this property, and you can see more details about the property here. You can attach vendors here. You can attach documents of that property here. So all that you can attach, and you can also edit that particular property. Then going to the units, you can see a list of units, and you can mark. You can see that the green ones are the ones that are occupied, and the orange ones are the ones that are free. So you can add a unit here and attach it to a given property. For example, let me say attach this unit, and you can give more details about the unit. Then so all that you can do it from here. You can add and you can also edit. You can see all the details about the unit and things like that. And then we have unit items. You for example, inside your units you have unit items like things that you, when a tenant is coming in for the first time, you see that these things are working, these are not working, so that when they are leaving, you can use those, like that checklist, to know what they have spoiled, and what security deposit you should retain from them. So this is where you set up all those unit items that you have within your units. Then we have the tenants. This is where you add the new tenants, and you can see they can be new, approved, or rejected. So that process is also there. You can add a new tenant here, and add the tenant, their email, and their information, and things like that. And then after adding a new tenant, we have agreements. So this is where you set up all your agreements. When a tenant comes, you sign an agreement with them, showing the period of time they are going to be there, they are going to stay, the amount of money they are going to pay. All that full agreement is added in the system, and you can add it. So you can see all these are agreements. So you can also add a new agreement here, putting all those details that are required in an agreement, so that the system can start tracking what agreements you have. Then we also have tenant statements. So these statements are just for accounting purposes. When after a tenant has finished their stay, and they and you want to know how what transactions you've been making with them, you can use these tenant statements for you to have a quick overview of what transactions you've been making with this tenant. So here we have complaints. So these complaints are most of the time raised by the tenants, and you can add them into the system. So you can just see here, you can raise a comment, for example, on photo heights. The tenant will automatically be filled. You can put that comment there. You can attach an image if you want to. Just take you through very fast. You submit this complaint, it will come here, and you can assign it to a vendor. The expected date will be that, paying the maintenance, for example, installation, You assign it to a vendor. You currently have only one vendor in the system, and you can approve it. After approving, you can, when the vendor comes and they pick the work order, you come and tell the system. After telling the system, when the vendor completes that work order, you can come and complete the work order here. So you give the updates that the tenant has given you and the amount of money that they have told you, and you submit. So when you submit, you can assign that pay. Remember, you have a complaint. A complaint can either be paid by the owner of the houses or the landlord, because maybe it was associated to maybe the house itself, not spoilage from the tenant. So you can choose here who's going to pay for that damage. Is it the owner or the tenant? Most of the time, it may be the tenant, because the tenant maybe has broken something. And if it is the owner, you have to click here. And if it is the owner, then you have to select the bank account that amount has come from, for us, for tracking purposes. So you can submit. When you submit, if it is for the owner, it will automatically affect our accounting in the system. If it's the tenant, it will just keep track of it, but it will not affect the accounting. So you can see the rejected complaints, the completed complaints are all here. Yes, and all that. So those are the complaints. Then under accounting, you can see the invoices. So the system will automatically, create invoices at every month if you set it like that. So if you want the invoices to create invoices every month, those invoices will be created. So if you want to create them manually, you can create them manually, so that you create invoices for your tenants, and then you can also pay those invoices. So now, for example, let's take an example of this invoice. It is showing that this tenant called Ronald Drew has to pay an amount of 1.5 million. So you can view the invoice here, give you a summary of the invoice, and you can also pay the invoice. When you click on pay, it will automatically pick up all those details, and it will allow you to pay. So for example, you're paying only 1 million out of the 1.5. You can submit that. Count is that. So when you submit, it will automatically reduce this amount and show you've paid 1 million and with a balance of 500,000. And when you view the invoice here again, it will show you that exact breakdown. So when you click to pay, you see a payment, you see the system will automatically pick up the remaining amount, and you can add your bank account and submit. When you submit, the system will pay the invoice and it will disappear from here. So when you come here, so you can see it has disappeared from here. So here, just a second. So ideally, the system has to remove that invoice from here to take it to the paid invoices, or the partially paid, to show you the partially paid ones. Then okay. Ideally, that's how the invoices work. You can create invoices for your tenants, and they will appear here. Then you can also see the receipts. Whenever you have an invoice, it will create a payment. So whenever you create that payment, it will automatically generate a receipt. So that receipt will be kept under the receipts section. So you can see the receipt here, which we have just paid. And this receipt can only change to fully paid if it is approved by the accountant. So the accountant will have their own view, and that view they will be able to mark the invoice as paid successfully or received for, like, on their side. Then you can also download the receipt here. You can also download the receipt. You can change this format, but currently it appears like this. You can download that. Yes, and that's though these are receipts really. You can see we have all receipts. We have complete receipts. We have security deposit receipts, and also market payment receipts. So all those are different kinds of receipts, and that's to track of what has been paid for what. Here we also have expenses. This section will track expenses made by the owner of the system. So that is, for example, if there is a complaint by a client, by a tenant, and you're the one who's paying for it, all that will be added on your expenses. So at the end of the day, it will help you keep track of how much you're this property, and how much you're getting. So all expenses, like even salary payments, you can them here as an expense. Then this approval section is just for you to approve. If you have any approvals you have to make. Then we cover the setup section. Then you also have reports, so you can create different reports in the system, and away from the default reports that you've been seeing, you can create reports that you will need from the data that is in the system. So that is that property management system that can work with all that can integrate with all Zoho, it's like Zoho Books, Zoho Inventory, any you want to integrate with, and you can also integrate with external tools to be able to add to help you keep track of your properties. So thank you very much. If you need this, you can maybe contact us and we can help you set it up. But